Thank you, Mr Speaker. I'm very pleased to support the second reading of the Christ College Canterbury Amendment Bill, and to note first how important it is to know that Christ College, one of the great important neo-Gothic facades and institutions of our city, of my electorate of Christchurch Central, have come through the quake with only modest damage. It is important to know that an institution like that is up and operating, and that's a message that's important for the Parliament and nation to know. Of course, I should note that even though Christ's has had some earthquake strengthening, this is no guarantee that you'll come through a force 7.1 quake. And I note that the Catholic Cathedral of the Blessed Sacrament, which had $700,000 spent on it in the last 3 or 4 years, is still closed and may be closed for another year. And there are many other churches in particular and other buildings across our city centre that have suffered much worse than Christ's College had. Christ College is, of course, an independent school. It's finally led by the headmaster, Simon Rees, and the purpose of this bill was to seek a modest... Simon Rees. The purpose of this bill is to acknowledge that there are changes required to the trusts that are there supporting the college back from its founding days in the 19th century, and there have been changes in the nature of those trusts, and this bill acknowledges that. It is a parallel bill, in fact, to another bill which I brought through the House last year for the Methodist Church, also headquartered in the Christchurch Central electorate, which was similarly faced with trusts that had got out of date and time, and the process to take change through the High Court was enormously difficult, complex and expensive. So this bill seeks to try and assist that issue. We, as the Labour opposition, are supporting this bill, but I would note that through the course of the Select Committee process, there were changes made, and those were, I think, quite important changes. They're around the issues of what, in fact, the college's trustees were able to do with a new purpose for a trust, concerns around being ensured that these purposes would still be charitable purposes. I understand that those changes are recognised and accepted by the Christ College Board of Trustees. That's appropriate, and the legal advice to them. And that probably reflected similar concerns with the Methodist Church Trust Bill, which was around issues of the very important principle that when a trust is established, be it a century or thereabouts ago, the people setting up that trust had very clear intent about what they wanted it used for, and although we as a Parliament want to ensure that trusts for which the purpose is no longer appropriate at all, we do want to generally ensure that the direction of monies is still to the kind of intent that those founding peoples envisaged a considerable number of decades ago. So we as a Labour opposition support the second reading of the bill and the progress of it through the Parliament. Thank you, Mr Speaker.